Perched atop a towering skyscraper, Eddie Brock surveys the nocturnal cityscape of Manhattan, knowing in his gut that Knull's ominous presence has arrived. Determined to face the threat head-on, he quickly reaches out to the Avengers, urging them to set their plans in motion. Without hesitation, Eddie takes a daring leap from the rooftop, undergoing a breathtaking transformation into the formidable Venom. Inside the luxurious penthouse he has been residing in, Eddie's gaze falls upon his slumbering son, Dylan. Deep sorrow grips him as he contemplates the dark and dangerous legacy he may have passed down to his child. With a heavy heart, he awakens Dylan, intending to explain the gravity of the situation, but before he can utter a word, Dylan calmly reveals his ability to sense Knull's malevolent aura. At Avengers Mountain, Captain America takes charge, joined by Iron Man, Hulk, and Captain Marvel. They huddle around a bank of screens, vigilant for any sign of Knull's horde in Earth's orbit. Iron Man reveals that Venom's intel indicates Knull and the symbiotes can't be tracked through heat signatures. But they expect to encounter the derelict Kree and Skrull warships left behind after the Katati War, which Iron Man has turned into a makeshift minefield. Captain America playfully remarks on Tony's penchant for turning things into bombs, inquiring about any updates from their secret weapon. Before they can discuss further, Captain Marvel alerts them to incoming trouble as countless symbiote dragons emerge from the depths of space and head straight for the minefield. Iron Man initiates the detonation, but his triumph quickly fades as the explosions only manage to destroy a fraction of the horde, which numbers in the hundreds of thousands. Meanwhile, Eddie, accompanied by Dylan, struggles to maintain his composure as the Venom symbiote connects with the pain and fury of the symbiote dragons. Urged by the symbiote, Eddie hurries down a flight of stairs. Feeling the urgency of the situation, Captain America orders all teams to move out immediately. The Avengers and Fantastic Four arrive in Manhattan, only to witness symbiote dragons descending from the skies like a relentless downpour. As Eddie leads Dylan towards the bunker crafted by Ezekiel Sims, a facility generously provided by Spider-Man, Dylan fervently protests, insisting that he can assist in the fight against Knull's horde by harnessing his powers to turn them against their master. However, Eddie adamantly refuses to put his son in harm's way. With emotions running high, the bunker's heavy door closes shut, and Dylan tearfully implores Eddie to return safely, to which Eddie responds with heartfelt reassurance of his love. A sense of urgency grips the city of Manhattan as the skies become a playground for symbiote dragons, while the buildings and high-rises are encased in an eerie living abyss. Down on the streets, the Avengers collaborate with Doctor Strange and street-level heroes, particularly those wielding electricity-based abilities such as lightning, to evacuate civilians. The skies rain with symbiotes, flooding the streets with living abyss, posing a grave challenge for the defenders. Eddie takes note that Knull has specific vulnerabilities, primarily to electricity, cosmic powers, and potentially magic. However, they find themselves short on resources to exploit these weaknesses effectively. Communication channels buzz with Captain America reaching out to Iron Man, inquiring about any word from Thor. The exploding dragons, birthing a deluge of symbiotes seeking new hosts, demand an immediate response. Iron Man admits he hasn't heard anything yet but informs them that their heavy hitter is on the way. Captain America insists they need backup urgently. In a telepathic intervention, Professor X interjects into the conversation, extending the X-Men's assistance. Deploying formidable members such as Cyclops, Storm, Cable, Marvel Girl, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Magneto in Washington Square Park, Professor X presents Storm as a goddess of the sky, praising her as a worthy substitute for Thor. However, Ororo, known as Storm, remains focused on her task, channeling her power to blast symbiote dragons with lightning, displaying her strength and determination. Noting the progression of Plan B, which involved Thor and Storm in its second phase, Venom ventures through the sewers towards the ruins of the Spire Dark Carnage's lair to initiate the third and final phase. His objective is to connect with Kasadi's throne of the living abyss. Eddie mentally acknowledges that the second phase aimed to use formidable heroes like Thor and Storm to sever Knull's link with as many symbiote dragons as possible. The third phase involves Venom taking control of these dragons himself, using the throne. However, Eddie is aware that Knull might sense their actions and attempt to reclaim control over the Venom symbiote. Above ground, chaos ensues as Doctor Strange desperately calls for backup through verbal, mental, and mystical means. Symbiote dragons overpower his defensive spells, and Storm faces overwhelming numbers, also seeking assistance. Eddie, making progress towards the core of the hive mind, is urgently urged by Iron Man to hasten his efforts as Doctor Strange falls victim to one of the dragons. Breaking through to the core, Eddie is horrified by what he discovers. He urgently warns everyone to flee as the symbiote dragons are no longer their primary concern. Knull has settled an ancient grudge against the Celestials, taking them over with symbiotes, and a group of symbiote-possessed Celestials, including Arishem the Judge and Tefril the Surveyor, appear in the skies above Manhattan and descend. Knull himself emerges from Tefril's chest, wielding his necrosword, and calmly declares his intent to destroy Earth. He seeks out a human named Brock and is willing to spare others if they surrender. In the face of this overwhelming threat, Captain America orders his team to retreat. Knull, now with draconic wings formed from symbiote armor, taunts them as he swoops closer, calling them a welcoming party for his coronation and demanding to know who they are. Iron Man reveals that their secret weapon is ready, but Captain America decides to adopt a different approach, opting to observe and wait instead of immediately engaging Knull. On Captain America's command, the Sentry, restored to his original golden form, swiftly descends from the sky and strikes Tefril with a devastating punch to the head. In a fit of rage, Knull turns his attention to the intruder, but the Sentry seizes him and ascends to the edge of space, introducing himself calmly while attempting to tear Knull in half, just as he had done to Carnage before. However, Knull proves too powerful and effortlessly reverses their positions, revealing that he already knows the Sentry's identity, as the Hive retains memories of the Sentry's past deeds, including killing Carnage. As Knull's grip tightens, the Sentry's eyes darken, and glowing red irises hint at the impending emergence of the void within him. Urging Knull to stop lest the dark entity be unleashed, the Sentry's plea falls on deaf ears. In a brutal display of power, Knull tears the Sentry apart, mimicking the way the Sentry had once killed Ares. The void is unleashed from the fallen hero's corpse, and Knull declares himself the Lord of the Abyss, absorbing the void into himself with a wicked grin. Venom and Captain America stand in shock and horror at the gruesome sight. Iron Man urges Captain America to retreat immediately, but the patriotic hero is determined to make a sacrificial stand. However, Knull mockingly interrupts his heroic speech, expressing disappointment at the lack of resistance from what he had expected to be worthy opponents. With a mere gesture of his hand, Knull commands the living abyss to consume the heroes, assimilating them into his dark army, with only a few, like Spider-Man, managing to escape. Knull's powers grow even further as he shapes a horde of symbiote dragons into a living abyss Dyson sphere, enveloping the entire Earth, cutting it off from the light of the sun and the stars. The world plunges into darkness as Knull's malevolence spreads unchecked. Storm, in a display of her elemental power, demands an explanation, and Iron Man relays the grim events that have just unfolded. Not even the Sky Goddess is spared, as Knull manifests a colossal hand of living abyss and snatches her from the heavens, forcibly adding her to his horde. As Professor X remains in stunned silence, Iron Man reaches out to Venom, seeking any glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. Dissociating himself from Dark Carnage's throne, Eddie makes a bold decision, revealing a risky plan to his allies. He proposes an audacious Hail Mary strategy, offering Knull what he desires. Despite Iron Man's objections, Eddie believes that this could buy them precious time to devise a winning plan. Discarding his communication unit, Eddie turns to the Venom symbiote, asking if it's ready for one final battle. The symbiote, loyal and affectionate, assures him of its commitment, declaring its love for Eddie, and establishes a connection with Knull's hive mind. Knull, wearing a sinister grin, manifests a colossal hand of living abyss, piercing through the street, and snatches Venom. Perched atop the abyss-encrusted Empire State Building, Knull seizes Venom by the throat, reveling in the darkness he has created, claiming it to be more exquisite than the light. In an attempt to protect Earth, Venom offers to serve Knull, but the dark entity identifies Eddie as the one who killed the Grendel. Knull's chilling chuckle reveals his understanding of the complexities of the mind. Eddie, horrified and enraged, demands an explanation. Knull then reveals a disturbing truth: he had sought Dylan, not Eddie. Overwhelmed with fear for his son, Eddie pleads with Knull to spare Dylan and take him instead. Knull appears to ponder the proposition but ultimately rejects it. He forcibly tears the Venom symbiote away from Eddie, absorbing it into his own, announcing his intention to reclaim his child and take Eddie's as well. With his use for Eddie at an end, Knull mercilessly lets go, sending him hurtling towards the symbiote-infested streets below.